The morning street was still half asleep when Ethan pushed the stroller past a bakery, its windows fogged with warmth.
Here
His
you go,
daughter
sir.
Lily was bundled tight.
Enjoy your meal.
Cheeks pink, breath soft. At the same bench near the bus stop, the old man sat again. Thin coat,
You're welcome.
trembling
Enjoy your
hands,
coffee.
eyes fixed on
Thank
nothing
you.
and
This
everything
looks
at once.
wonderful.
Traffic whispered by. A sparrow hopped close. Ethan slowed, like he always did, unaware that this ordinary kindness would one day summon suits,
Here you go,
briefcases,
sir.
and for
Can I get you
silent
anything
men
else?
built like
No,
walls.
thank you. This is perfect.
Before we go any further, where are you watching from right now? It still amazes me how one quiet story can travel across the world. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see
Here
how
you go,
far a
sir.
small act of kindness
Enjoy
can
your
reach.
coffee.
Ethan had never planned to stop that first morning.
Thank you, young
He was
man.
late
This
for
looks
Lily's
wonderful. You're
daycare.
very welcome, sir.
Late
Enjoy
for
your
a
coffee.
shift he couldn't afford to lose. But the old man's hand
Thank
shook
you, young
so
man.
hard
This
the paper
reminds me of
cup
the days
rattled.
back in my day. Such a pleasant
Coffee
memory.
sloshing
Thank you.
dangerously close to spilling. Ethan parked the stroller with his foot and reached out. Careful, he said gently, steadying the cup.
Here you
The
go,
man
sir.
looked up,
Enjoy your
startled,
meal.
then embarrassed. Thank you, he murmured, voice worn thin by time.
Thank you.
His
This
name
is
was
just what I
Walter.
needed.
You're
From that
welcome.
day
Enjoy
on,
your coffee.
the stops became routine.
Thank you. This looks
Ethan brought an
wonderful.
extra muffin, sometimes a banana. He never asked questions. He never took photos. He just sat for 2 minutes, sometimes 5, listening to
Here you go,
Walter
sir.
talk about the weather
Can
or
I
the
get you
buses
anything
that
else?
didn't come
No,
on time
thank you. This is
anymore.
perfect.
Lily would kick her feet and smile, and Walter would smile back, a shy, broken thing that seemed to surprise him every time. Ethan's life was not easy. His wife,
Here you
Grace,
go, sir.
had died
Enjoy
2
your
years
coffee.
earlier after a sudden illness that left no room for goodbyes.
Thank you, young
The
man. This
apartment
looks
still
wonderful. You're very
smelled
welcome,
faintly
sir.
of her
Enjoy your
lavender
coffee.
soap. Nights were long. Bills stacked like bad
Thank
news.
you, young man. This
He
reminds me of
worked
the days
maintenance
back
at
in
a
my day. Such a
hospital.
pleasant memory.
Long
You're welcome, sir.
hours,
Glad you
tired bones, quiet pride. Kindness wasn't a hobby. It was a habit he clung to so the world didn't turn completely cold.
Here you go,
One
sir.
rainy morning,
Enjoy your
Walter
meal.
wasn't there. The bench was empty, slick with water. Ethan felt a pinch of
Thank
worry
you. This is
he didn't
just what I
expect.
needed.
You're
The
welcome.
next day,
Enjoy your coffee.
Walter returned,
Thank
coat
you.
soaked,
This looks
eyes red.
wonderful.
Missed the bus, he said, though they both knew it wasn't the truth. Ethan handed him a dry napkin and didn't press. Weeks passed. Winter
Here you
leaned
go,
in.
sir.
Walter's
Can I get you
stories
anything
grew
else?
thinner,
No, thank you.
shorter.
This is perfect.
One morning, his hands were bandaged poorly. Ethan noticed but
thank you.
didn't stare.
This reminds me
You
of
okay?
the
He
our
asked.
signature
Walter
blend.
nodded too fast. Clumsy, he said.
Here you go,
Ethan
sir.
left a pair of gloves
Enjoy
on the
your
bench
coffee.
when Walter wasn't looking. If you were there in that moment,
Thank you, young man.
what
This
would you
looks
have
wonderful.
done?
You're very welcome,
Be
sir.
honest.
Enjoy your coffee.
Comment your answer below. And if words don't come easily,
Thank you, young man.
just
This
tap
reminds me
like
of
to
the
show
days
that
back in my day. Such a
compassion
pleasant
still
memory. You're
matters.
welcome, sir. I'm glad you
The
like it.
kindness spread in small ways. The bakery started slipping an extra roll into Ethan's bag. A bus driver waited
Here you go,
an extra
sir.
second when he
Enjoy
saw
your
Walter
meal.
running late. Lily learned Walter's name before she could spell her own. She'd
Thank
wave
you.
and
This is
shout,
just what I needed.
"Hi,
You're welcome. Enjoy
Walter,"
your coffee.
and Walter would laugh.
Thank you.
A
This
sound like a
looks
door creaking
wonderful.
open after years of rust. One morning, Walter didn't laugh. He stared past them, face pale. Down the street, a black car idled,
Here
too
you go,
clean
sir.
for the neighborhood.
Can I get you
Ethan
anything else?
felt it
No,
before he
thank
saw
you.
it.
This is perfect.
The quiet tension, the way the air seemed to brace. The car
thank
drove
you.
on.
This reminds
Walter
me of the days of our
exhaled.
signature
"Oh,
blend.
ghosts," he said, forcing a smile.
Here you
Ethan
go, sir.
nodded, though
Enjoy
his
your
chest
coffee.
tightened. That night, Ethan found an envelope taped
Thank
to
you,
his
young
door.
man. This looks wonderful.
No
You're
name.
very welcome, sir. Enjoy your
Inside,
coffee.
a folded bill and a note written in careful ink.
Thank you, young man.
"Thank you
This
for
reminds
seeing
me
me."
of the days back in my
He
day. Such a
tried to
pleasant
return
memory.
it
You're welcome, sir. I'm
the
glad you
next
like it.
morning. Walter shook his head. "For Lily," he said. Ethan hesitated, then tucked it away. Shame
Here
and
you go,
gratitude
sir.
tangling in his throat.
Enjoy your
The
meal.
routine held, until it didn't. One clear morning, the street
Thank
fell
you. This is
silent.
just what I
A black
needed.
sedan
You're welcome.
pulled up
Enjoy
and
your
stopped
coffee.
at the bench.
Thank
Four men
you. This
stepped
looks
out, tall
wonderful.
and wide, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. A fifth man followed, slim, expensive suit, briefcase in hand. Walter stood slowly,
Here you go,
shoulders
sir.
square like he was
Can I get
bracing
you
for a
anything else?
storm.
No, thank you.
Ethan's
This is
hand
perfect.
tightened on the stroller handle. Lily sensed it and went quiet.
Thank you.
The suited
This
man
reminds me
smiled
of the days
politely,
of our
all
signature
edges.
blend.
"Mr. Hale," he said, "we've been
Here you
looking
go,
for
sir.
you."
Enjoy
Walter
your coffee.
closed his eyes. Just for a second, The city held its
Thank you,
breath
young
as the
man.
men
This looks
positioned
wonderful. You're
themselves.
very welcome, sir. Enjoy
Two
your coffee.
behind, two to the side, bodyguards,
Thank you,
unmistakable.
young man. This was
The
my
suited
face back
man
in my day.
turned to
Such a pleasant
Ethan,
memory.
courteous and cold. Sir, this won't take long. Ethan swallowed, heart thudding, as Walter met his eyes with something like apology.
Here you go,
story
sir.
paused on that look.
Enjoy your
Heavy
meal.
with truths still hidden, as the men opened the car door and waited. The suited man smiled,
This is
didn't
just what I
move when
needed.
Walter
You're welcome.
hesitated.
Enjoy your
We
coffee.
can do this here,
Thank
he
you.
said
This
softly.
looks
Or
wonderful.
somewhere warmer. One of the bodyguards glanced at Lily, then away, as if children complicated things. Walter adjusted his coat, fingers trembling
Here you go,
despite
sir.
the gloves Ethan had
Can I
given
get
him
you
weeks
anything
ago.
else? No, thank
Here
you.
is
This is
fine,
perfect.
he replied. His voice was steadier than his hands. Ethan didn't step back. He felt the old instinct rise, the one that carried him through hospital nights and
Here you go,
grief-soaked
sir.
mornings.
Enjoy your
Protect
coffee.
what's small. Stand where you are. Is there a problem?
Thank you, young
He
man. This
asked,
looks wonderful. You're very
surprising
welcome,
himself
sir.
with a
Enjoy your
firmness
coffee.
in his tone. The suited man assessed him, measuring the
Thank you, young
scuffed
man. This
shoes,
was my
the
suited face
stroller,
back in my
the
day. Such a
tired
pleasant memory.
eyes.
You're welcome, sir.
No
Thank you.
problem, he said. Just business. Walter cleared his throat. Ethan, it's okay. He tried a smile that didn't land. You've done more than enough. The words hung there, heavier than gratitude. The suited man nodded to the bodyguards, who eased back a step. A concession. Mr. Hale, the man continued, your attorneys are waiting. He opened the briefcase just enough for Ethan to glimpse embossed letterhead and a fountain pen that gleamed like a blade. Walter signed. The pen scratched. A car door opened. Before he stepped in, Walter turned to Lily. He crouched with care, joints protesting, and pressed something into her mittened hand, a small wooden bird, smooth from years of worry. For brave mornings, he whispered. Lily smiled and squeezed it. Ethan felt his chest burn. The car pulled away without drama. No sirens, no shouting, just tires and distance. The street breathed again. The bakery bell chimed. A bus hissed to a stop. Life resumed as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Ethan stood there longer than usual. Lily babbled, oblivious. He rolled the stroller forward, then stopped, looking back at the empty bench. It felt wrong without Walter's thin silhouette, without the quiet ritual. At daycare. He kissed Lily's forehead and lingered by the door until a teacher smiled gently and nudged him back into motion. At work, he couldn't focus. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and coffee, floors humming with machines that kept people alive. He fixed a flickering light in pediatrics and watched a mother rock her son beneath it. He replaced a cracked rail in oncology and remembered Grace's hand, warm and gone. Kindness had always been simple to him. Show up, steady the cup, listen. But that morning had cracked something open. Who was Walter? Why lawyers? Why bodyguards? When Ethan returned to the street the next day, the bench was empty again. He brought the muffin anyway and sat, just in case. He left the gloves folded neatly on the slats. A woman walking her dog paused. You're the one who sits with him, she said. Nice man. Ethan nodded. He is. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to show that compassion still matters. Days passed. The bench remained empty. Ethan kept stopping. He didn't tell himself why. Routine was a shelter. On the fifth morning, a folded note waited on his slat, weighted by a pebble. His name was written carefully, each letter deliberate. Inside, thank you for teaching me how to be seen again. I owe you more than you know. Voo. Ethan read it twice. Then a third time. He tucked it into his jacket and felt something like relief and something like dread settle together. That afternoon, a woman in a navy coat approached him as he locked the stroller by daycare. Ethan Morales? She asked. He nodded, wary. She smiled, warmer than the man from the car. I'm Ava. I work with Mr. Hale's legal team. The word legal tightened his shoulders. He asked me to find you. They walked a block away. Ava spoke carefully, as if choosing stones to cross a river. Mr. Hale won't be coming back to the bench, she said. He's transitioning. Ethan almost laughed at the word. He wanted you to know he's safe. She hesitated, and he wanted to ask a favor. Ethan's mind filled the gaps with alarms. I don't want money, he said quickly. Ava shook her head. He knows. She handed him a card with an address, no logo. Just come tomorrow morning. Bring Lily if you want. He says mornings matter. The address led to a riverfront building that used to be a factory, now all glass and quiet power. Security nodded them through with practiced ease. Ava guided them to a room flooded with light. Walter stood by the window, different but the same, cleaner coat, steadier posture, eyes still carrying storms. You came, he said, voice catching. They sat. Lily toddled between chairs, wooden bird clutched tight. Walter watched her like she was a sunrise. I lied to you, he began, then stopped. I didn't tell you everything. Ethan held his gaze. You don't owe me a story, he said. Walter shook his head. I owe you the truth. He spoke of a company built and sold, of a fortune that hollowed him out, of a son lost to anger and distance. He spoke of guilt that drove him to benches and buses, to places where he could disappear. Those men, he said quietly, were there to bring me back, to fix what can't be fixed. His eyes shone. You reminded me what still can be. Silence settled, not empty, full. Ava watched from the door, respectful. Walter slid a folder across the table, untouched. I won't ask you to open that, he said. Not today. He looked at Lily. I just wanted to sit with you again. They did. For minutes that felt like mercy. Outside, the river moved on, indifferent and beautiful. When it was time to go, Walter squeezed Ethan's hand. Strength surprising. Morning saved me, he said. Because of you. Ethan stepped back into the street with Lily asleep on his shoulder. The city louder than before. He didn't know what the folder held. He didn't know what tomorrow would ask of him. He only knew that a bench could change a life, and sometimes it could change too. He paused at the corner, heart racing, as a black sedan slowed nearby and a familiar suited figure stepped out, this time without the smile, and called Ethan's name, just as a light changed and the world seemed to tilt, waiting. The suited man raised a hand as traffic rushed past. Cars slicing the moment into noise. Just a word, he said, voice clipped, urgent in a way that had nothing to do with politeness. Ethan shifted Lily higher on his shoulder, her small weight anchoring him. Make it quick, he replied. My name is Michael Reed. The man said, I represent Mr. Hale's family. The word family landed hard. Michael glanced at the building behind them, then back at Ethan. What happened in there complicates things. He lowered his voice. Walter has obligations. People who don't appreciate surprises. Ethan felt anger flare, clean and hot. I didn't ask for any of this, he said. I just shared coffee. Michael studied him, as if recalibrating. That's exactly the problem, he said. You're not part of the system. And yet, here you are. He handed Ethan a second card, heavier stock, fewer words. If you're contacted again, call me first. For your daughter's sake. Michael stepped back into the sedan and disappeared into traffic, leaving exhaust and unease behind. Ethan stood there longer than the light allowed, until a horn nudged him forward. He walked home with Lily's breath warm against his neck, the city suddenly sharper around the edges. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The apartment creaked and settled. He washed dishes slowly, hands remembering Grace's rhythm, the way she hummed when she thought no one was listening. On the fridge, Lily's drawings fluttered, sun with too many rays, stick figures holding hands. Ethan opened the folder Walter had given him at last. Inside, documents, neat and heavy with consequence. A trust, a provision. His name typed cleanly, unmistakably. He closed it again, heart pounding. The next morning, the bench waited. Habit pulled him there, even as his mind argued. He sat muffin untouched, watching buses come and go. He thought of Walter alone in a glass room, of Michael's warning, of Lily's future teetering on choices he didn't feel ready to make. A woman sat at the far end of the bench, hair streaked with gray, eyes kind. You're early, she said, like they shared a schedule. He used to be. Ethan nodded. He helped me, she continued, surprising him. Paid for my medication one winter. Never told me his name. She smiled sadly. He said mornings were for mercy. Ethan swallowed. Walter's kindness wasn't a line. It was a circle. It widened with every story. At work, Ethan made a mistake, left a valve loose, caught just in time by a nurse named Sophia. "You okay?" she asked. He forced a smile. "Just tired." She touched his arm. "Take care of yourself," she said. "Lily needs you whole." The words followed him all day. That evening, Ava called. "I wanted you to hear this from me," she said. "Walter's son is coming." The name she didn't say filled the silence. "He's not gentle," Ava added. "Walter is trying to make amends." Ethan thought of the folder, unopened again on the table. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Ava exhaled. "Because you didn't want anything. Because you sat when you could have walked on. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would?" "Right, yes. And tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think." The son arrived 2 days later. Ethan saw him first across the street. Tall, sharp suit, eyes hard as cut glass. He watched from a distance as a man entered the building, security stiffening in his wake. That night, Ava called again. "It didn't go well," she said. "Walter is shaken." Ethan closed his eyes. He pictured the old man's hands, steadier now, and hoped they wouldn't return to trembling. A knock came at the door just before midnight. Ethan froze. He checked the peephole. Michael Reed, alone this time. Ethan opened the door a crack. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Michael nodded. "I know. That's why I am." He stepped inside, voice low. "Walter's son believes you're manipulating him." Ethan laughed once, sharp. "I can barely manage my rent." Michael's mouth twitched. "I told him that." Michael paced the small living room, eyes catching on Lily's drawings. "The trust names you as guardian of certain decisions," he said. "Not money, direction. Walter wants his assets to do good. His son wants control." He stopped. "They'll pressure you." Ethan leaned against the counter, steadying himself. "I don't want to fight," he said. "Neither did Walter," Michael replied. "But here we are." He slid a phone across the counter. "If anyone threatens you, call." He paused. "And for what it's worth, I think he chose well." After Michael left, Ethan sat on the floor until dawn. Lily curled beside him under a blanket. When the sky lightened, he carried her to the window. "Mornings," he whispered, unsure if he meant them for her or himself. Later that day, Ethan went back to the riverfront. Walter looked smaller somehow, the glass brighter around him. "I never meant to burden you," Walter said, eyes wet. Ethan shook his head. "You didn't," he replied. "You trusted me." Walter smiled. "A fragile thing. Trust is a bridge," he said. "Sometimes it sways." Outside, clouds gathered, heavy with promise. Ethan stepped into the hallway, heart thudding, as Ray's voices echoed from a closed door. "Walter's son, anger sharp as breaking glass." Just as Ava hurried toward him, face pale, and whispered, "They're demanding a decision. Today." Ava's whisper lingered, as if the walls had learned to listen. "Today," she repeated, eyes flicking toward the closed door where voices rose and fell like a storm trapped in glass. Ethan nodded once, feeling the weight settle, not on his shoulders, but in his chest. He followed her into a smaller room that smelled faintly of lemon polish and river air. Walter sat at the table, hands folded, posture careful. Across from him stood his son, Daniel. Sharp jaw, restless energy, a man used to rooms bending his way. Papers lay scattered like fallen leaves. "This is absurd," Daniel snapped. "You don't hand stewardship to a stranger." His gaze cut to Ethan. "No offense." Ethan met his eyes without flinching. "None taken," he said quietly. "I didn't ask for this." Daniel scoffed. "Funny how that works." Ava stepped between them. "Enough," she said. Walter asked for a conversation, not a verdict. Daniel laughed, humorless. Conversation ended when he signed away control. Walter lifted his head. "I didn't sign away control," he said. "I shared it." His voice trembled, then steadied. "Because I lost my way once. I don't want my legacy to do the same." He turned to Ethan. "I won't ask you to choose for me. I'll ask you to witness." He slid a single page forward. Read. Ethan hesitated. Lily's wooden bird was heavy in his pocket. He read slowly. The trust wasn't about money. It was about direction. Clinics in neighborhoods like theirs, morning programs for parents who worked early, benches restored where buses stopped running on time. Mornings mattered. He looked up, breath shallow. This isn't control, he said. It's care. Daniel slammed his palm on the table. You think you understand? His voice cracked, anger giving way to something raw. He left us. He chose benches over birthdays. Walter flinched. I chose shame, he whispered. And I was wrong. Silence stretched. Ethan spoke, surprising himself. I lost my wife, he said. Grief can make you small. It can make you hide. Daniel's eyes flickered. You don't know. Ethan held up a hand. I know it hurts. I know mornings can be the hardest. He looked at Walter. He didn't sit with me because he was rich. He sat because he was lonely. That's not abandonment, it's damage. Daniel's shoulders sagged a fraction. Ava watched, breath held. Outside, the river kept moving, patient. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. The meeting ended without signatures. Not peace, but pause. Daniel left first, jaw tight, eyes wet despite himself. Walter stayed seated, exhausted. Thank you, he said to Ethan, for saying what I couldn't. Ethan shook his head. I just told the truth. The pressure didn't ease. Over the next week, calls came at odd hours. Emails multiplied. A neighbor mentioned a man asking questions. Ethan changed his route to daycare, watched reflections in windows. Sophia noticed. Something's off, she said, handing him a coffee. He smiled thinly. Just life. One morning, the bench was crowded. A mother with twins. A man in paint-splattered boots. The gray-haired woman from before. Ethan brought extra muffins and shared them out. Laughter bubbled, small and bright. He realized then that Walter's mornings had already taken root beyond him. Ava called again. Daniel wants to meet, she said. Alone. Ethan agreed before fear could veto. They met at the river's edge, wind cutting clean. Daniel didn't sit. I'm not here to threaten you, he said. I'm here because I saw the clinic list. He swallowed. There's one near my daughter's school. His voice faltered. She needs speech therapy. We've been fighting insurance. He stared at the water. I didn't know. Ethan said nothing. He let the truth breathe. Daniel exhaled, long and shaky. I'm still angry, he said, but I don't want to burn this down. Ethan nodded. You don't have to. Daniel looked at him then, really looked. Why are you doing this? Ethan thought of Lily's mitten, the wooden bird. Because someone once steadied a cup for me, he said, and it mattered. They shook hands, not agreement, but acknowledgement. That night, Ethan opened the folder again and wrote notes in the margins. Direction, not dominance. Care with teeth. He slept, finally. The next morning, a crowd gathered at the bench. A photographer hovered at a distance. Ethan bristled, then relaxed when the man lowered the camera. I won't, he said. This isn't mine. The bench creaked under the weight of people. Mornings multiplied. At the riverfront, Walter watched the live stream Ava had pulled up. Parents lining up early. Volunteers pouring coffee. A sign taped crooked. Good morning. His eyes filled. It's already working, he whispered. The day the decision was finalized, no guard stood in the room. Just signatures, steady hands, and a promise written plain. Ethan signed last, feeling the ink dry like a vow. As they stood to leave, Daniel paused. I'll help, he said. I need to. Walter closed his eyes, relief softening his face. Outside, clouds broke open, light spilling across the water. Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from daycare with a photo of Lily holding the wooden bird up to the sun. He smiled, breath catching, as Ava touched his arm. They're waiting, she said. The press. Ethan shook his head. Let them wait. He turned back toward the city, toward benches and buses and mornings that asked for nothing but presence, unaware that the quiet they built was about to be tested one last time. Buy a choice that would demand not courage, but forgiveness. The test came quietly, the way the hardest ones often do. It wasn't a shouting match or a courtroom spectacle. It was a phone call at dawn, Ava's voice thinner than usual. Daniel filed an injunction overnight, she said. Temporary. He says it's to protect his father. She paused. Walter thinks it's fear. Ethan stood at the window, Lily asleep behind him. The city bruised purple with early light. What does it mean? He asked. Ava exhaled. It freezes the clinics. The mornings. Silence followed, thick as fog. He's coming to see you, she added. Walter arrived without escorts. No suits hovered. No glass walls. He took the stairs slowly, pausing on each landing, pride and age negotiating each step. Ethan made tea. They sat at the small kitchen table where Grace used to roll dough, the past pressing close but not suffocating. I didn't expect this to be easy, Walter said, staring into his cup. But I didn't expect it to hurt like this. Ethan nodded. Fear makes people reach, he said, even for the wrong things. Walter's mouth trembled. I failed him, he whispered, long before any papers were signed. He looked up, eyes wet. If this breaks you, I'll call it off. Ethan felt the weight settle again, direction, not dominance. Don't, he said. This isn't about me. He thawed the bench crowded with strangers, of muffins passed hand to hand. It's bigger than us now. A knock came. Daniel stood in the doorway, jacket rumpled, eyes ringed with sleeplessness. He didn't wait to be invited in. I'm not here to fight, he said. I'm here to tell you why. He paced once, then stopped. I was 12 when he disappeared, he said, voice tight. I learned to be angry because it felt safer than being abandoned. He looked at Walter, jaw clenched. When I saw those clinics, I saw you choosing strangers again. Walter stood, slow and careful. I chose strangers because I couldn't face you, he said. And that was cowardice. His shoulders sagged. I'm sorry. The word landed softly, not as a fix, an opening. Daniel rubbed his face. I don't know how to trust this, he said. I don't know how to trust you. Ethan spoke gently. Trust doesn't arrive whole, he said. It shows up in mornings, one at a time. Daniel scoffed, then stilled. You really believe that, he said. Ethan nodded. I've lived it. The injunction held. Days stretched. Volunteers kept showing up anyway, pouring coffee from thermoses, sharing fruit. They called it the pause. Ethan took Lily with him on weekends. She handed out napkins like offerings. Walter came once, leaning on a cane, eyes bright despite the worry. Daniel watched from a distance, unseen. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart. Sometimes one small symbol says what our hearts can't. The call came on a rainy Thursday. Daniel's voice quieter. I withdrew it, he said. The injunction. Ethan closed his eyes, rain drumming applause on the sill. Why? He asked. Daniel hesitated. My daughter said her first clear sentence today, he said. At the clinic. He swallowed. She said, Good morning. The work resumed with urgency and care. Ethan spent evenings drafting schedules, mornings at the bench. The press tried again. He declined again. Sophia brought donuts. The gray-haired woman brought soup. The city stitched itself together in small, stubborn ways. Then came the letter. No return address. Inside, a single page typed, I forgive him. It read, I don't forgive you. Ethan read it twice, heart sinking. Ava confirmed the source with a nod. There are other stakeholders, she said. Not everyone wants mornings to belong to the people. Threats followed, soft ones, wrapped in concern. A meeting canceled, a permit delayed. Ethan felt the old fear crawl up his spine. He thought of Michael's phone, heavy with promises. He didn't call. Not yet. One evening, Walter collapsed. Not dramatic. Quiet. A stumble. A hand to the chest. An ambulance's red-blue wash against the river. Ethan sat in the hospital corridor where he worked. The familiar hum suddenly foreign. Daniel arrived breathless, eyes wide. Is he? Ethan shook his head. There with him. Hours passed. Machines beeped. Nurses moved like practice mercy. A doctor finally spoke. "He'll recover," she said, "but he needs rest. No stress." Daniel laughed once, broken. That ship sailed. They sat together then, father and son and the man who'd steadied a cup. Walter woke later, voice hoarse. "Did we lose?" he asked. Ethan smiled. "No," he said. "We learned where it hurts." Outside the hospital, Dawn broke pale and honest. Ethan stepped out for air, phone buzzing with messages, volunteers asking what to do. He typed back slowly. "Show up." He pocketed the phone and watched the sky lighten, feeling the weight shift again. Not lighter, but truer. Behind him, Daniel joined him at the window. "I don't know if I can forgive him," he said. Ethan didn't answer right away. He thought of Grace, of the things unsaid. "You don't have to decide today," he said finally. Daniel nodded, tears slipping free. The city woke. Buses hissed. Somewhere, a bench waited. And Ethan knew the last test wouldn't be about building or signatures. It would be about letting go, about choosing mercy when anger still felt earned. As the door to Walter's room opened and a nurse beckoned them back, faces solemn but hopeful. The nurse's nod was small but steady, the kind that carried relief without promising too much. Ethan followed Daniel back into the room. Walter lay propped up, skin pale, eyes alert in that careful way people get when they brushed against the edge. Monitors hummed, a quiet orchestra keeping time. "I heard voices," Walter said hoarsely. "Figure it meant I wasn't alone." Daniel tried to answer, failed, then pulled a chair close and sat. The space between them, years wide, shrank by inches. Walter's fingers twitched, wanting to reach, not daring. Ethan stood back, a witness again, the role he'd learned to honor. "I withdrew the injunction," Daniel said at last. "The clinics are running." Walter closed his eyes, breath shaking. "Thank you," he whispered. Daniel stared at the floor. "Don't thank me yet." The doctor returned with instructions. Boundaries. Rest. No stress. No meetings. Ava nodded, already rearranging calendars in her head. "We'll handle it," she said. "All of it." Walter's gaze found Ethan. "Promise me something," he said. Ethan stepped closer. "Anything within reason." Walter managed to smile. "Keep the mornings human." Ethan left the hospital with Daniel as dusk settled, the sky bruised and beautiful. They walked without speaking until the river came into view. "I used to think forgiveness meant pretending it didn't hurt," Daniel said finally. "I don't think I can do that." Ethan shook his head. "Forgiveness isn't erasing," he said. "It's choosing not to bleed on everyone else." They stopped at the water's edge. Daniel's phone buzzed, messages he didn't read. "People think this is about money," he said. "They don't see the cost." Ethan thought of Grace's laugh, the quiet after. "The cost is always paid in mornings," he said. "You either face them or you hide." The pressure didn't stop. An anonymous op-ed questioned the clinic's oversight. A donor pulled back. Permit stalled again. Ava worked late into nights, voice steady, eyes tired. Michael called once just to check in. "You still good?" he asked. Ethan looked at Lily asleep on the couch, wooden bird on her chest. "I'm here," he said. "That's what I've got." At the bench, the crowd grew thinner as weather turned. Ethan brought blankets. A teacher organized a book bin. Someone taped a note to the sign. "Mornings matter." A photographer returned, camera low. Ethan nodded permission this time. Not for faces, but for hands passing cups, for steam rising in cold air. Daniel showed up one Saturday, unannounced. He stood awkwardly, then poured coffee like a man learning a language. A woman thanked him without knowing his name. He blinked fast. "This is harder than arguing," he said quietly to Ethan. "Harder is good," Ethan replied. That night, Daniel sat with his daughter on the floor, practicing sounds. "Good," she said. "Mourn." He laughed through tears. "Morning," he finished for her. He thought of his father, tubes and machines, of benches and buses. The anger loosened, not gone, but no longer gripping the wheel. "Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply." The climax came not with a bang, but a choice. A call from a major backer offered stability. On one condition: remove the street component. The voice said, make it respectable. Ava related, jaw tight. It would save months, she said. Maybe years. Ethan looked at the schedule, at the early slots marked bench. He thought of Walter's whisper. Keep the mornings human. They met at the hospital. Walter propped up, Daniel beside him. It's your call, Ava said to Ethan. He swallowed. If we cut the bench, he said slowly, we cut the heart. Daniel nodded. I agree. Walter's eyes shone. Then we don't, he said. They declined the offer. The fallout was swift and sharp. Funding gaps. Long days. A cold snap that tested resolve. Ethan worked double shifts, showed up anyway. Sophia slipped him granola bars. The gray-haired woman brought gloves she'd knitted. The city answered in small ways. One morning, Daniel took the bench alone, while Ethan walked Lily to daycare. When Ethan returned, Daniel was still there, listening to a man talk about missing a bus that never came. Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't fix. He just stayed. At the hospital, Walter improved. He held Daniel's hand longer each day. I don't expect forgiveness, Walter said once. Daniel squeezed back. I'm trying, he replied. The op-ed cycle moved on. Permits cleared. A new donor arrived quietly, no conditions. Ava smiled for the first time in weeks. Someone saw the photo. She said, hands, not faces. As winter softened, the mornings brightened. Ethan stood at the bench, steam curling, Lily waving with her bird. He felt the ache of grace and the warmth of what remained. The city hummed, imperfect and alive. Behind him, Daniel joined, eyes steady. I'm not done being angry, he said. Ethan nodded. You don't have to be. Daniel exhaled. But I'm done letting it decide. He looked at the line forming, the cups waiting. This helps. The bus arrived late. No one complained. They shared the quiet, the kind that heals. And in that shared stillness, forgiveness didn't announce itself. It simply began to work, as the light climbed higher and the morning kept its promise. Spring arrived quietly, the way grace often does, without announcement, without certainty. The mornings grew lighter, the air softer. Jackets loosened. Smiles lingered longer. Ethan noticed it first in Lily, who no longer buried her face against his chest at dawn, but leaned forward, eager for the bench, for the ritual that had become their shared heartbeat. Walter was discharged on a Tuesday. No speeches. No cameras. Just a slow walk down hospital steps. Daniel on one side, Ethan on the other. Walter paused, breathing in the city like it was a second chance. I forgot how loud hope sounds, he murmured. Daniel smiled, tentative but real. They returned to the bench together the following morning. Walter didn't sit right away. He stood, cane planted, watching the line form. Familiar faces, new ones too. The gray-haired woman waved. The man with paint-splattered boots brought oranges. A teacher read to a child while coffee cooled. Walter lowered himself onto wood with care, eyes wet. You built this, he said to Ethan. Ethan shook his head. We did. Daniel poured coffee beside them. Sleeves rolled, hands steady. Someone thanked him. He nodded, surprised by how much that single word mattered. A bus driver leaned out and called, Good morning. The crowd answered back, laughter lifting like birds. If you believe love still wins, comment, amen. Let's fill this space with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. The work wasn't finished. It never would be. But the urgency softened into rhythm. Clinics ran. Volunteers rotated. The bench remained, unpolished, honest. Ethan learned how to delegate, how to say no without guilt. Ava slept more. Sophia stopped by on her days off. Michael sent a brief text once. Proud of you. One afternoon, Daniel invited Ethan to his daughter's recital. It was small, held in a school gym with folding chairs and bad acoustics. When the children spoke their lines, Daniel's daughter stepped forward and said, clearly, good morning. Daniel covered his mouth, tears spilling free. Ethan felt his own chest ache with borrowed joy. Afterward, they walked by the river. I still get angry, Daniel said. At him? At myself. Ethan nodded. Anger's a compass, he said. It tells you where it hurts. Daniel considered that. I don't want to live there anymore. Ethan smiled. Then don't. Walter began writing again, letters, notes, apologies he never mailed. He volunteered once a week, sitting quietly listening. This is penance, he told Ethan. No, Ethan replied. This is presence. Walter laughed, a full sound at last. The city noticed, not with fanfare, but with imitation. Another bench 2 blocks over. A thermos outside a library. Mornings multiplied. Ethan watched it happen with awe and a little fear. Hope always risked disappointment. But it held. One evening, as the sun slid low, Ethan found Grace's old scarf tucked into Lily's backpack. She said mornings matter. Lily explained solemnly. Ethan swallowed, eyes burning. She did, he said. They sat on the floor that night, building a tower from blocks. Lily placed a wooden bird on top. Brave mornings, she declared. Ethan laughed, tears slipping free. He kissed her hair and felt the ache and the warmth coexist. Finally not at war. At the bench the next day, a young man hovered, unsure. Ethan caught his eye and smiled. Coffee's hot, he said. The man sat. A minute passed. Then another. The quiet did its work. Walter watched, content. Daniel joined, steady. Ava arrived with pastries. The gray-haired woman told a joke that fell flat and somehow worked anyway. The bus arrived late. No one complained. Ethan leaned back, listening to the city wake, feeling the weight of what they'd carried together and what they'd learned to put down. The story wasn't ending. It was widening. He glanced at Lily, who waved at strangers like they were old friends. He thought of Grace, of benches and buses, of cups steadied and mornings kept human. And he knew the last thing left wasn't a decision or a defense. It was a simple truth, waiting to be said aloud, as the light climbed and the bench held them all, ready for whatever came next. The truth arrived the way mornings always did, without asking permission. It was there in the scrape of chairs, the hiss of a thermos, the way strangers learned each other's names by accident. Ethan felt it settle as he stood behind the bench. Lily perched on his hip, the wooden bird tucked under her arm like a promise she refused to put down. Walter watched the crowd with a softness that hadn't lived in his face before. I spent years thinking legacy was something you left behind, he said quietly. Turns out it's what you sit inside of while you're still breathing. Daniel nodded, eyes following his daughter as she handed a napkin to a man who looked surprised to be noticed. I thought forgiveness was letting someone off the hook, Daniel said. Now I think it's stepping off it yourself. The city kept showing up. A woman brought soup in a slow cooker. A student offered guitar chords that stitched warm through the air. The bench held, weathered and faithful. Ethan noticed how his shoulders no longer braced the day. They opened. He had learned that courage didn't always look like standing tall. Sometimes it looked like staying put. A reporter approached, careful this time. Why keep it simple? She asked. Ethan glanced at Lily, then at Walter. Because simple lasts, he said. She nodded, scribbled, and left the bench intact. Later, when the crowd thinned, Ethan sat alone for a moment. He thought of Grace, of the mornings they'd rushed, the ones they'd missed. He imagined her laughter here, easy and approving. He didn't feel the old stab anymore. It had softened into a warmth he could carry without bleeding. Walter cleared his throat. There's one more thing, he said. He handed Ethan an envelope, thinner than the first. Inside was a single page, handwritten. If the day ever comes when this becomes about anything other than people, walk away. Ethan folded it carefully. I will, he said. Daniel exhaled. I'm staying, he added. Not because I have to, because I want to. Walter smiled, eyes shining. That's all I ever hoped for. As the sun climbed, a bus driver honked and waved. Someone laughed. Someone cried. Life did what it does best when given space. It healed in pieces. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, I felt you. Ethan packed up last, Lily asleep against his shoulder. He wiped the bench with a cloth, a small ritual that mattered to him. The wood was warm from the sun. He paused, hand resting there, and understood something simple and final. Kindness didn't change the world by force. It changed it by invitation. It asked you to sit, to listen, to steady a cup. It asked you to choose presence over power, mercy over scorekeeping. And when you did, when you kept the morning human, it stayed with you. Ethan walked home with Lily and the wooden bird and a quiet heart. Behind him, the bench waited, ready for tomorrow.